This is lesson 25, part 2, and we're continuing our rhythm reading practice. I'm going to spend the next several sessions just working through as many rhythmic examples as I can in both simple and compound time, with the idea being that you can later return to these videos and use them as practice aids if it's helpful to you. Just a disclaimer to always remember to work at your own pace. These videos are here for reference and to aid you in your practice if you find them helpful either now or many months into the future. For now, keep working at your own pace. Remember, the goal is to build ease and genuine skill. And in order to do that, we need to work slowly, patiently, allow ourselves plenty of repetition. Well, we will obviously cover past concepts just through our reading work together during this lesson 25 material. I'm not going to be explicitly spending time reviewing in these videos because I want to work through as many examples as possible so you can later use these videos as references to guide and aid your own practice efforts. I would recommend, if you would find it helpful, to review past videos, especially lesson 24 videos. There were 4 parts to it, where I reviewed pretty much all of the topics we've covered now in our rhythm section of this Byte by Byte music literacy course, just to make sure you're clear on all the fundamental concepts involved with rhythm reading up to this point.
Returning to Sally K. Albrecht's Rhythm Workshop. Returning to exercise 73 in the 6/8 section of the book. Beginning with example 4, we're going to, as always, start with decoding the time signature. So first of all, notice that the top number is a 6. Remember that any time the top number of a time signature is a 6, a 9, or a 12, we know we're dealing with compound meter, and that the time signature we see will actually be telling us how many subdivided or little beats there will be in each measure and what the subdivided or little beat or pulse note will be. And we're going to have to do some extra decoding information to figure out what the big beat or pulse note will be, which will always be, of course, a dotted note value. So the top 6 tells us there are 6 little beats in each measure. And the bottom 8, we could think of as the denominator of a fraction, tells us that an 8th note will be our little beat or pulse note. So moving over here, I'm just going to draw out 6 little beats, 6 8th note or subdivided beat notes. So representing 1 measure's worth of little beats in 6/8 time. And then remember that our dotted note value or big beat or pulse note will naturally divide into 3 equal parts. So in this case, our dotted note value will be a dotted quarter note because a dotted quarter note is equivalent to 3 undotted 8th notes. So in 6/8 time, we will have 2 big beats per measure, and these big beats will be represented by dotted quarter notes. We are therefore in compound duple meter because there are 2 big beats per measure. Now that we know that a dotted quarter note is our big beat or pulse note, we can go over here to our dotted note value pyramid and just fill in that 1 beat will be assigned to each dotted quarter note or dotted quarter rest, and 2 beats will be assigned to each dotted half note or dotted half rest, and we'll stop there. Since our dotted quarter note is our big beat or pulse note equivalent to 1 big beat in 6/8 time, we will call our dotted quarter notes do, and because our undotted 8th notes are worth just 1/3 of a beat each, we will use the Gordon rhythm syllables of do, da, di to represent those notes. Returning to example 4, we're going to set the metronome at 50, so a nice, stable, slow pulse. And I'm going to put this big beat into my hands or feet. Ready, clap. And now I'm going to actually think through what my subdivided pulse will be. do-da-dee, 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 do-da-dee. Now we're ready to read the rhythm on the page. 1 and a 2 and a ready, speak. Do-da-dee, do, do-da-dee, do, do-da-dee, do-da-dee, do, do-da-dee, do, do-da-dee. Do-da-dee, do-da-dee, do-da-dee. Looking at example 5, I can see that this is a little bit more complex because of the rests we have. Especially in an example like this where we have a lot of fluctuation between eighth notes and eighth rests, can be really helpful to use that tool we've already tried out here and there of mouthing or whispering the syllables we don't need. So first of all, I'm going to mark my big or do beats in red. My first do would fall here. The 2 eighth notes plus the eighth rest together are equivalent to 1 dotted quarter note, so that beat is now complete. Here's my next do. This is the same pattern, so we know our next do will fall here. Do, da, dee together completes that beat. Then we have an eighth note with 2 eighth rests that completes this next dotted quarter note beat. Our next do falls here, then here, same pattern as in the first measure. Do, da, dee completes that beat, and a dotted quarter note obviously is its own beat. Our next do falls on the rest, so that'll be our mouthed or silent do syllable. And then do, da, dee, that'll finish out that dotted quarter note beat. Our next do falls here, same pattern, silent do with a spoken da, dee. Here's our next do, the eighth note, eighth rest, followed by an eighth note will finish out that dotted quarter note beat. Here's our next do, and then we have a do, da, dee, followed by a do, da, dee, followed by a dotted quarter rest and a dotted quarter note. And now I'm just going to go through, and in some of the trickier measures, I'm going to write out just the actual syllables themselves. Do, da, dee. Do, da, dee. And now I'm just going to go ahead and cross out the ones that will be silent. Okay, the ones I will whisper or mouth. Here's another little bit tricky spot. Do, da, dee. And these 2 syllables will be silent. Do, da, dee. And this syllable will be silent. And then I'll jump down here to the bottom line. Do, da, dee. Do, da, dee. I'll keep going here. Do, da, dee. Do, da, dee. Crossing out the syllables I won't be speaking out loud. And again, you won't have to do this forever, but until these rhythmic examples become familiar, this kind of very careful decoding, very methodical, thoughtful, slow decoding work will likely be something you'll need to do. Now, without even clapping or stomping a big beat, I'm just going to go ahead and speak the rhythm in the first measure, and I'm going to mouth or whisper the syllables I don't need to speak out loud. Do, da, dee. Do, da, dee. Now I'm going to put a beat without the metronome on, slow beat into my hands or feet, and try that again. Do, da, do, da. Moving on to the second measure, I'm just going to say this one beat right here, just to try that. Again, mouthing or whispering the syllables I don't need, without even keeping a steady beat in my hands or feet. Do, da, dee. Do that again. Do, da, dee. Moving on to the next measure, I'm just going to try saying this beat right here without even clapping or tapping a big beat. Do, da, dee. So it's the same as the first measure. Do, da, dee. Moving on to the bottom line, I'm going to do the same thing. Do, da, dee. Do, da, dee, do, da, dee, do, da, dee. I might do that one a few more times, and then I'm going to put a slow but relatively stable beat without the metronome on into my hands or my feet and try it again. And I can still mouth or whisper the syllables I don't need if that's easier than just internally thinking them. 1, ready, go. Da, dee, do, dee, do, dee. Now I'm going to go ahead and set the metronome at 50, and I will mouth or whisper any of the syllables that are silent if it's helpful. If not, I'm just going to try keeping a relatively steady subdivided pulse going inside of do, da, dee, do, da, dee. Ready, clap. This is our big beater pulse. 1 and a 2 and a ready, speak. Do da, do da, do da dee do. Do da, do da dee do. Da dee do, dee do, dee do da dee do. Returning to exercise 11 in the 4/4 section of the book. We're going to be looking at example 5. As always, begin by looking at the time signature. So we see we have 4/4 time. Because the top number of the time signature is a 2, a 3, or a 4, we know we're in simple time, and we can just take the time signature at face value. Our big beater pulse note will be an undotted or basic note value and will therefore naturally divide into 2 equal parts. Our top 4 tells us that there are 4 beats per measure, and the bottom 4 tells us that a quarter note is our beat or pulse note. From there, we can go over to our note and rest value pyramids and specifically assign 1 beat for quarter notes and quarter rests, 2 beats for half notes and half rests, 4 beats for whole notes and whole rests, and half a beat for each 8th note and 8th rest. Our quarter notes, since there are 1 beat or pulse notes, will be do in our Gordon rhythmic language. And our 8th notes, since they're worth 1/2 of a beat each, will be do days. Looking at example 5 now, I see that it is comprised entirely of quarter notes, quarter rests, 8th notes, and 8th rests. So I'm going to try to keep a steady subdivided pulse going either internally or mouthed or whispered of do day, do day, do day, do day. We're going to set the metronome at 60 and put this beat into our hands or feet. Ready, clap. Ready, speak. Do day, do. Do day, do. Do day, do day, do day, do. Do, 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 do. Do day, do day, do day, do. Do, do day, do. Do day, do. Do day, do day. Do day, do day, do.